RMJ Movie Reviews back again with a new edition of my Shoot 'em Up, Kill 'em Up series with Monty's favorite fight scenes on film. Now, I'm not saying that these are the best of all time, but these are the ones that I enjoy most for my own self. Number 6, John Wick versus 3 Assassins. John Wick Chapter 3. Well, one of the cool things about this fight scene is the fact that Keanu Reeves, I believe, is 55 or 54 years old when he filmed this fight scene. The good thing about this fight is that it incorporates one steady camera angle and you actually get to see where the opponents are coming from, what sort of weapons that they're grabbing, and all sorts of different kung fu fighting techniques that they're using against one another. John Wick could easily be basically defeated in this scene, but he uses all the weaponry that he has at hand, and also too, there's a little bit of clumsiness to the fight as well. So he's not landing every single knife that he throws at every single opponent. You know, there's times when the knife misses. Sometimes the opponents throw knives at him. They miss too. And I love the fact that it's a continuous in-camera fight. There's very lack of cutting in there. So there's not multiple camera angles. There are pieces in the fight where it cuts to different angles. But again, the camera is held back, it's wide. You get to see all the fighting skills that Keanu Reeves learned and built up over the months to prepare for this fight scene. And it is a really cool. I will say, out of all the action sequences of John Wick 3, this is probably my favorite fight scene of the entire film. I'm not saying it's the best, but it is my favorite fight scene. It's just absolutely marvelous. Just, you know, they incorporate a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You know, just it's so cool, and I like the fact that it's very Hong Kong influence. That's one of the cool things that I really like about John Wick 3. Number 5, Michael Dudikoff versus John P. Reilly in Avenging Force. Interesting thing about this fight, what I love about this fight scene is that it is the quintessential 1980s fight scene, meaning all realism is totally out the door, because I think, as I mentioned in my Avenging Force review, Michael Dudikoff, I believe, is probably 35 years old in this film, or at least 36. He's a very young man. John P. Reilly got to be at least, I would say, probably 60. You really believe that this is an equal fight. And also the thing about it is that Avenging Force, the film itself, has a lot of tension, a lot of very strangely uncomfortable moments. And by this point in the movie, you really want to see John P. Reilly die. And it's just, and also I like the fact that this final fight that Dudikoff and John P. Reilly have in his mansion, it kind of exhibits signs of John P. Reilly's character, that he is a hunter. He is a person who believes himself to be some sort of a warrior. And it almost looks like he takes pieces from whoever he defeated that are in this hall that him and Dudikoff have a fight in. And this is a canon film too, so it's really very 80s driven type of fight. So there's a lot of, you know, raw, raw type of stuff. But again, it's still fun and it's still cool. Number 4, Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Ted Levine in Nowhere to Run. Here's one thing about Nowhere to Run. Say whatever you want to say about this film. I know a lot of old school Van Damme fans like myself who are in their 40s and their 50s. They're very split on Nowhere to Run because it's Van Damme's first foray into drama. I always really love this film. Ted Levine is so hateful. And this was when he was in his villain phase before he started playing good guys. And he's so hateful in this film, and he takes a lot of personal digs at Van Damme with his accent, and you know, he kind of, you know, beats up kids and stuff like that. And by this point in the movie, you really want to see him and Van Damme really just go at it. And he's so condescending towards Van Damme most of the movie, and Van Damme is very laid back, and by this point you're like, yeah, it's time for this dude, excuse me, to get his ass whooped. And it's a very good mano-a-mano fight. They fall off a rooftop, and it's just old school Burt Reynolds 70s style, just punches, grabs, you know, throwing people's face into, you know, throwing them in the walls, you know, swinging shotguns, pitchforks at him. Van Damme doesn't really use a lot of his martial arts skills in the fight, but that's what I like about it. It's just an old school brawl. And I love how it ends with just basically Van Damme giving him like 3 or 4 good ones right to his face with his right hand. It's absolutely fantastic. Number 3, I'm going to move on to Patrick Swayze versus Marshall Teague in Roadhouse. Dalton versus Jimmy. This is one of the all-time great fight scenes. I absolutely love Roadhouse to a T. I watched it faithfully when it first aired on HBO because I was too young to have seen it in theaters. Patrick Swayze is such a skilled bouncer. His skill level, his kind of Buddhist philosophies. This dude is on another level. Jimmy is the exact opposite of Dalton. He's brash, he's angry, he's mean, but they both have equal skill level. At this point in the movie, you know, Jimmy has kind of been giving Dalton kind of looks, and you can feel the tension just building between the two, and you were just ready. And when the moment finally comes when those two fight on the beach and Jimmy lets out it's hysterical, and you were just ready. You were like, okay, look. And the thing about it is, you just don't want to see these two beat each other up. You know that they are both equal opponents, and you're just like, okay, I want to see who's going to win this one. Patrick Swayze uses some of his ballet dancing martial arts kind of skills, and Marshall Teague just comes at him with pure brute it's kind of more just brute force that he's coming with him, but it still has skill level to it. And of course it ends with a beautiful throat rip out coming from Dalton to Jimmy. Great fight scene, of course elevated by the great Michael Kamen score. Number 2, Sylvester Stallone versus Leon in Cliffhanger. Oh man, this is a great fight scene, and one of the great fight scenes about this scene in Cliffhanger is the fact that Gabe, Sylvester Stallone, is just a mountain man. He's just a mountain man, mountain rescuer. He doesn't have any fighting skills. Leon is what I assume to be some sort of a mercenary, hired gun. He has martial arts, military skills, weaponry skills. So Stallone beats this guy, his brains, to get the upper hand on him, because seriously, Leon is giving him a serious beatdown in this fight scene. It's a very brutal fight, very mean-spirited. He's tearing up Stallone's leg. I mean, he's tearing them ribs up, and they're in this cavernous cave, and basically he uses the cave as a weapon to defeat him. Very cool fight scene, and just the brutality and the meanness of it and the viciousness of Leon's character. It just harkens back to a day when they didn't make they don't make vicious action pictures like this anymore. They just don't. And now I'm gonna move on to my number 1 favorite fight scene, and that is Martin Riggs versus Mr. Joshua. Mel Gibson versus Gary Busey in Lethal Weapon 1987. This fight scene here, boy oh boy, this is just a great fight. The intensity of Mel Gibson, just his craziness and the subtle, and the one thing about Gary Busey is Gary Busey, he's a magnificent actor. He's always been a magnificent, very well-rounded actor. Obviously, towards the end of his career, as he got older, he just kind of started playing these crazy characters. But Gary Busey has always been a very well-rounded, good character actor. He's as solid as an actor as Mel Gibson is. And just the fact that you combine these two crazy... And the thing is, Gary Busey's craziness in Lethal Weapon is very subtle. It's not pronounced as it would get later on in his career, maybe for something like Surviving the Game, where he really amps it up and cheeses it up. But he's much more settled and psychotic here. Mel Gibson is the broken, emotionally broken good guy who's outwardly kind of, you think he might be psychotic, even though he's not. But the whole movie, everybody's been trying to tame Riggs, and at this point, Danny Glover, and the absurdity of it too is that the fact that they're having this fist fight on his front lawn, and of course I've heard many people give complaints about, oh, that would never happen. It's the 80s, guys. It's an 80s action movie. Of course it would never happen. And I know even the writer Shane Black himself had made kind of criticisms about why would they just let him get it on. I love the fact that at this moment Danny Glover has surrendered because he knows that Riggs' skill level and craziness, his lethal weapon, is a benefit. It helps to defeat the bad guys, so Murtaugh lets him loose and says, you know what? You saved my life. You saved my daughter's life. Here's one for you, buddy. Sick 'em, boy. And they go at it. And there's a little bit of there is some martial arts skill mixed in there, but it's the only way they did it in the 80s. And you know how they did it in the 80s is they would have little moments of kind of martial arts, but it wasn't as accurate with the martial arts as something like, say, John Wick or action films that came later on, the Bourne movies and things like that. This is more fantasy driven, but the brutality of it, I mean, they're doing headbutts to each other's faces. It's cut in such a way that it can kind of tend to come off a little bit messy, and learning the behind the scenes of it, I understand how the fight came off that way, because literally they didn't have that much time to shoot this fight, and they choreographed a lot of stuff for it, and it kind of ended up kind of getting thrown out, and they kind of winged it. So it makes sense the way there's so many different cuts in the fight is kind of choppy in terms of editing, but I will say Gibson and Gary Busey's complete commitment to playing these characters who at this point in the movie hate each other really hides the fact that some of the editing is a tad bit messy, because you know there are things in it visually that, you know, sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't. Ends with Mel Gibson, Martin Riggs putting the triangle. He takes the triangle with his legs. I think it's called a triangle, where you wrap one opponent around his neck and you get his kind of arm in there like that. Very, very good fight scene. I love this fight to the original Lethal Weapon. I think it is the perfect blend of little sprinkles of real martial arts with complete fake movie fantasy action, and it involves two great actors who were in their prime and completely committed to the characters that they were playing. I love the final fight in the original Lethal Weapon. I don't care about, oh, it would never happen, it's fake and all that. Who gives a damn? So that's my list of part one of Monty's favorite movie fights. Also, I want to give mention that my friends from S'mores and Doors, Corey and Jonathan, they sent me these chips, and I was actually supposed to eat these on air one time. I did not. So, right now is going to be the first time that I'm going to do this barbecue. Don't y'all be stereotyping me talking about it. I'm the dude eating barbecue. I'm slamming. Very good. It's hot. I'm about to eat the rest of these off camera. Jonathan, Corey, thank you. I'm finishing this off camera. Thumbs up the video. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video. Leave comments down below. And if you don't like Lethal Weapon 1 as one of the #1 best fight scenes on RMJ Movie Reviews list of all time, why don't you go ahead and watch The Bridges of Madison County? RMJ Movie Reviews, I will see you soon.